Hi! Today I'm back in the Art Garden studio in sleepy Shaftesbury, North Dorset. Today I'm going to demonstrate to you a sky study on Bockingford, acid-free. I think it's about 140 pounds in weight, and it's cold pressed, so it has a rough texture to it. It's quite a nice weight actually, and I'm not going to stretch it or anything, I'm just going to paint on it like this. These are great, these big sheets like this. You can buy them from most online art sites, and this is what I use for my teaching. I just want to mention my all-day art experience package as well, which all takes place here in the Art Garden studio. I'm just going to show you this. I've been doing the all-day art experience packages for, over 4 or 5 years now. And it consists of, basically you come for the whole day between 11 till 4 o'clock, and you have my undivided attention all that time, and you learn techniques in watercolour. You learn how to do what we're going to do today. Big, loose, explosive sky. And then you're going to learn dragging techniques and movement and, just the landscape, and there's just so many things in the natural world. You'll learn about how to layer colours with backwashes and what type of brushes to use and paint. So this is a really good kickstarter day if you want to take it up as a hobby. And you can always come along with a friend if you're a bit nervous. You know, I've taught like husband and wife or friends. So why not try it? You know, if you're from quite far away in this country, you could always stay in a hotel here overnight and come for a day. I lay on food, free art materials, so you get to use lovely quality paper, really good quality watercolour paint, and you get to use all my brushes and see the real experience of what I'm trying to get across. The whole package for the day costs £90. So go on, just get in touch with me via my email, which is sampoppy71@hotmail.com. Hi everyone, just want to show you a wet in wet technique on rather textured Bockingford, Bockingford watercolour paper. You can buy it on Amazon or most art shops or art sites, and it's a really good value watercolour paper, and also very good quality without being too expensive. So you can see I'm really sort of soaking the paper. A little tip as well is to put a little bit of washing up liquid in your water. I'm using my favourite bushy hog's hair brush. It's a Terry Harrison brush, and I use it for a lot of backwashes. If I don't use this one, I end up using my Chinese hog's hair. Look at that, that's great as well. So I'm going to demonstrate to you with these colours today. So we've got 4 colours. We've got yellow ochre, ultramarine, cerulean blue, and alizarin crimson. They make a lovely combination. I don't normally use 2 different blues, but I just thought, what the hell, I'm doing a sky study. Let's just see. It's all about experimenting and enjoying and embracing what you do. just want to mention how supportive everyone has been on YouTube. And I've got to mention Chrissy Canvas Art. Now she's fantastic. She hasn't been on YouTube that long, and she demonstrates in acrylic, and she does all sorts of different pictures. And she's, you know, getting a lot of subscribers quite quickly, I've noticed. And she's just wonderful the way she expresses herself. So I just want to say thank you to Chrissy for being such a wonderful support from day one. You know, so she's always noticed what I've been doing. And I wish you all the success in the world, because I think you should be selling a lot of your art online. Okay, here goes. So my first backwash, I'm going to use the yellow ochre first. Okay, so I'm basically going to sort of skim across the paper. So it's going to be like a big sky study. Okay, and I'm going across like this. Okay, so I'm leaving areas of light, because they can always be filled in. But don't go, you know, just leave the areas of light when you're doing a sky study. And we're going all the way down, just sporadically skimming across the paper, okay? And then almost using a brush like a wave again, or a ripple. There, look, I've just dropped some water on at the same time, just wanted to loosen that up a bit. Okay, so you get loads of movement and energy, and that's what it's about, going all the way through. I'm not trying to create a scene, nothing is set, it is totally being expressive and gestural with your brush. Okay, so what happens is, because it's so wet, from the slits that are not wet, you get these lovely shafts of light, these lovely areas of white, okay? And then you get this drift, can you see that? The drifts of the yellow ochre coming across. So what I'm going to do is slightly tip it. Okay, because I want drifting clouds. Okay, and then I lie it flat. So I slightly tilt the paper at an angle. Okay, so it's coming towards me slightly at an angle. So you get this drift. You could do it the other way. You could do whatever you want. You could do it, you know, you could do a waterfall effect where it's cascading all the way down through. But that's kind of the effect I want. Now, if you get a lot of I've got a lot of water hanging here, then I'm going to have to get rid of it. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that across. Okay, bring that across there, and then, you know, it's going out at the edges. So really focus on just that one backwash, because with watercolour there's so many patterns already with this first backwash. It has a nice translucency and freshness, and you have to keep that going. So I'm quite happy with that yellow ochre. I'm not going to put another coat of yellow ochre on at the moment. I'm going to mix now my alizarin crimson into my yellow ochre. So I've got this lovely sort of, what do you call that? It's a sort of pink sorbet colour. Okay, so I'm going to place that now over my sky, and again it's all going to kind of reflect all the way through. And don't worry if you get strips and things like that, because it's so wet, it'll all just run into each other, and that's what we want. We want this natural progression of brush strokes. We don't want it set. And again, we'll drift that across. Okay, so this paper's great. Right, so you can see how it's all drifting across as one pattern, can't you? And it seems to me that the water's collecting just in that bit there. So we'll just get rid of that little bit there and just do that. You see how? That's why these hog's hairs are wonderful, Now, most people use hog's hair for oils or acrylic, but they're actually amazing in watercolour. I'm just going to bring that across again, look, see? And this is how you get this dreamy, floaty etherealness. Past, you know, you've got this sort of goldenness and then it's sort of becoming quite pastel. Let's just get some of that excess water off again. Let that, can you see how that's gliding all the way across? Look at that. All the way across. Don't worry about the edges too much. Okay, so that's gone all the way out. So where the main light's going to come from is here, and it's drifting across. I can't plan it too much. All I can do is apply more colours. I'm just going to do another overlay of colour with the yellow ochre and the alizarin crimson. And all I'm doing is focusing on these patterns, but this time I'm placing them again in quite a sporadic way all the way through, but leaving some of that yellow ochre, some of that goldenness, see? Okay, again, keep going at an angle, see? See how it drifts? Look at all the patterns. And it feathers down. Let that feather down, then bring it across. Bring it all the way across. Like the clouds are just gliding. Look at that. I mean, just doing that is just a wonderful expressive way of painting. And it just makes you feel really good as well. It's very therapeutic. And again, keep an eye on where the water is hanging on the paper. Keep letting it glide across. So you get this dreamy etherealness. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to mix some ultramarine and the cerulean blue. That. I always mix into the same colour quite a lot. I just like that feeling of doing that. It just seems natural to me. It doesn't go all mucky. And I'm going to use this colour for my clouds slightly hanging. I'm going to have a bit of drama going on now. But also I want a little bit of blue coming into it as well. Okay, so I've got to work quite quick now. I'm just going to skim, but I don't want to lose that bit there. Okay, so I'm just bringing in a little bit, just a little bit. Just see what happens, isn't it? It's all about seeing what happens, not being scared to do something different each time. Okay, so again, when you drop that shadow colour on, you can always put some more water on as well. Again, remember, this is a sky study, but a sky study can turn into anything you want. Got all these shapes and patterns that are forming in front of me. But I'm working in the same rhythmical pattern. You might not like all of it, but look, it's lovely when you put that colour on and you drop some water on, just to loosen it up a bit. Okay. So yes, when it's really wet like that, it starts to feather down. So we're going to sweep it across by just tilting the paper. There. So you've got all these shadows going over the fire colours. You see how they're moving over that light. But obviously you want to keep some of that light. I'm going to again tip it that way so it looks like they're drifting, the clouds, almost falling down into one another. Sky studies just make you feel so good. Okay, so this is where the light is. The light was there, but now that just that darkness, not too dark, just a bit. It's coming across here, and I will leave that area there, that little slit there, and I will leave that as it is. Just going to again, just do something about that bit there. I can't describe how wonderful this feels when you create something like this and you've got no idea how it's going to turn out at all. You just have to go into yourself, really. There, it's still gliding across. Let it come all the way across there. Try not to worry about the size too much. It's all about this area here. Just want to sort that bit out because I want all of that about there. Just going to stand up just to show you, look, see? It's still gliding across all those pigments. But it's just absolutely fascinating to watch. Let me just get the cloth. And look, it's all dripping off. There, you just wipe it all away. There. Wipe underneath it. If you want to tidy up the edges, just run your brush down the side. There. Okay, so what I'm going to use now is a flat brush because I'm going to just have a little bit of blue sort of coming in somewhere. I'm not going to disturb this bit at all, I just want a tiny bit of the blue. I'm going to put a bit of that cerulean, you see that, in there slightly, with a little bit of ultramarine. The two different shades together actually are rather lovely. And I'm going to just sweep across this time with a lovely flat hog's hair brush. Hog varnish it's called, Pro Art. Very affordable brushes and wonderful to use. Fantastic for landscape and seascapes and backwashes. Again, don't mix it in too much, keep it quite fresh. So nice big sweeps. There, mustn't go over that slit. That's incredibly important. Now, the only thing with these natural haired hog's hair brushes, yes, you do get the hairs come out. Okay, so I've got that blue now on there. I want that strength. Just coming in there. But what I really want to sort out is just, I use a dry brush. And I'm just going to soften that out a bit, just that bit there. Can you see how just push that pigment across, and I might just bring it across again. Should make more sense. I think I'm going to do that. Let's bring it across. But try not to worry about the hairs coming out. I'm going to use a slightly stiff brush now, just to soften that. Can you see that? Just to soften that edge there. It's very tempting, obviously, to use tissue. A lot of people straight away would be like, blot that out, but I don't want that. Now, if I do have an annoying hair, again, the filbert's really good for pulling it up. In this case, it doesn't want to. Annoying hairs. So I might have to just, there. What's interesting, you've got this sort of fluffiness there. I don't really want that though. So I think I'm just going to go over that. That's it. Like that. Okay. And I'm sort of observing it all the time, thinking, do I need a little bit more of that blue? You know, so you really sort of makes you think. Again, you're using your brush in a different way. And again, slightly tip the paper. Can you see that? So I'm tipping the paper. It's feathering slightly. And then I'm going to let it drift. Now I don't want that happening. Okay, and that's slightly gone into there. So we'll just use a dry brush again. And pull out some of that. Let's just pull out some of that, a little bit of that in there. I'm quite tempted actually to go over that with more blue. Sometimes I look at my work and I turn it up the other way to see if there's anything else that I'm missing. It's all about, no, it's this way up. It's definitely this way up. Sometimes if you get a halo kind of effect, you can use that to your advantage. So what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to actually, because I've done this as a sky study, I'm going to form a ridge here. I actually feel that there's got to be something here now coming across. So I'm going to take my hog's hair brush now. I want like a bluey sort of hill, but a sort of dark bluey hill. So I'm just going to use the colour that I've got, mix it in to that purpley sort of colour. Here it goes. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Okay. There. So we've got now a ridge line. Because it's dried in this area here, what else I do is I run my filbert along the top of that ridge, so it's all sort of softened it. I don't want the sharp lines. Again, let's let that tip down a bit. I'm quite tempted to bring in a bit more blue. Alright. I can always do that. When it's totally dry, I can always go back over that again, which I will probably do. I'm not going to disturb that at the moment. I'm going to leave it as it is. Okay. So again, I'm going over this hill again. And then I'm going to bring in a bit of a plateau coming down here. I'm sort of somewhere in the Blackwell Vale, or I could be on the Cheswick. In Dorset, I could be anywhere. This is what happens. I start mixing all three colours, or four colours, together, and get totally sort of carried away. I think they're mounds. I think I'm at the back of Studland. Yeah, I'm at the back of Studland. Because what's happening is, it's almost like a sort of sand dune here. And you can see it sort of feathering a bit. So again, I'm going to run some of the colours so they all start connecting here. There. And I start using the paint quite, pretty thick, as you can see. Look at that. So it's very thick, because with watercolour it does fade very quickly. Actually, I'm just going to run that now. Across there, across there. You just got to do it. See what happens. Actually, I'm going to slightly change that colour. Just slightly. The best way of being expressive is just using lots and lots of paint. And again, this is totally organic. I haven't planned this at all. I've just used the patterns and the shapes that have formed from a sky study. I'm going to leave that little bit there, and this is going to be the sand here. Something here, that's it. Coming around here. So I'm kind of mapping out now my sandy pool area. There. So, there we go. Again, just be as expressive as you want. A little bit of heather. There. So I've got this sort of sandy bit here. And again, probably I will end up doing some grasses. There. Bring in some grasses. So then that would consist of my dragging technique that I'm using a lot at the moment. In there. There. Okay, so I've got all that paint on. I'm going to start dragging up. But naturally, this is what I love. I absolutely love this bit here because it naturally looks like tufts of seagrass, doesn't it? Without me having to actually do that. And I think I'm just going to tip a bit more just to get a slight more exaggeration there. So I don't have to do anything on the top of the ridge of the sand dunes. To be quite honest, it's all about this bit here more. Already I can see that. Taking a sky study and just using the warm colours first with the backwashes, then the shadow colours, which were the purpley tones, and then the two different blues, ultramarine and cerulean, that I went over with a flat hog's hair brush. And to be quite honest, I'm sort of very loving this bit here. But I'm still going to show you, you know, like you could do a bit of detail down here. I don't know if I'll have all of this. It might just be this bit here. So I'm just going to start off with using my Chinese brush, which is a calligraphy brush, and it's basically made of wolf hair, and I use it a lot for my tree studies and reeds and grasses. Okay, I'm just showing you there, look. See, it's wonderful because the fine hairs, they separate. So Chinese brushes are wonderful. They're really tactile and they're really affordable. Okay, so I'm going to drift up. Okay, so I've got some paint on this brush, but also I'm using the paint that's within all these channels and strips of colour. Okay, can you see that? because it's very wet still, sometimes I have to leave areas to dry to go back and do a bit more detail. I'm actually not going to touch these areas here. I quite like the suggestive bit of them, just, it kind of, you can see it naturally that they're like seagrasses. They're going to be more detailed down here. And it's still quite wet. So I'm just going to have to wait a while. Bluey sort of turquoise with my sort of terracotta colour. In a little bit there. Because these are the colours that you get. And I'll just bring a little bit of that there. Just toning down a little bit of that vibrant blue. Depends what you like. Some people like leaving the paint really thick in areas. I'm just sort of going, if I go over like this, you see it sort of, it kind of softens it out a bit and it looks more natural to me. Again, it's just all the colours that I've got mixed up on my plate. Yes, it's still quite wet. It's just a suggestion. Again, there's a lovely feeling of dragging the paint up. Sit down now and just sort of enjoy and relax into it. Because a lot of my energy obviously went into the sky study itself and the formations and the patterns. And then when you come to then approach the dragging technique, you kind of feel you've got to sit down and it's sort of very repetitive and gradual blending up. And sometimes I have to wait for it to dry to get my effect that I want. I want that contrast of the dragged effect and the etherealness effect. Again, so you want to make sure that your brush is quite loaded with paint. Again, it's still quite wet. Yeah, it is quite wet. So if you want very defined grasses, you have to wait for it to totally dry. But this is what it looks like when it's quite wet. I'm going to have them all the way along, why not? But again, it's very important to have a brush where the hairs on the brush, you know, you can spike them out. So you've got the separation of the bristles, because that's what you need when you come to do grasses and reeds. Some artists use rigger brushes. They're really good as well, but they have more of a formality, I feel. Again, sometimes I use my nail. I'll just flip the paint up and then I'll go back over. Again, I'm going to leave, I'm not going to do too much. I want it to totally dry in a minute, then I'll go back over. Again, be very light. Don't press too hard on the paper. It's almost like you're hardly touching the paper. There, drag up. Just drag some of that colour up from all those colours that you put on. Okay. Okay. But it's incredibly important that you still have that sandy feel, those warm, glowy colours coming through your grasses. Again, sometimes I use the end of the Chinese bamboo brush, and again you can scrape the paint, look at that, see? Which creates markings in areas. You don't want to do too many, just do a few. It's very important when you're actually doing grasses and you want to do movement, brush up from the base, from the root of the reeds or the grasses, and you're doing an anti-clockwise. So you can go that way, anti-clockwise or clockwise. So if you wanted the reeds or the grasses going to the left, then it's anti-clockwise. If you want them going to the right, then it's clockwise. There, look, see? It's starting to dry now. So then you get this real dry effect, which I love. Because the hardest thing on watercolour is trying to create texture or depth. There, so it starts to take shape. I'm going to just have some coming up there as well. It's very wet in there. Just a few coming up there. So again, you're just dragging up. You have to be very gentle when you're doing the tops. Just a few tufts. Now if you've got too much paint on your brush, yeah, just have a bit of paper to take some of it off, or just an old cloth. That's very wet in there. And again, if you're the sort of artist or you're someone exploring watercolour, I suggest, to try lots of different techniques in just one painting, because it just makes it far more diverse and interesting, because sometimes you can get a bit bored. I tend to sort of work pretty quickly. It depends on my subject. If I'm doing something very detailed, then obviously that takes a lot longer. But with this kind of work, it's really expressive. And I don't really like to leave it. I like to just kind of do it in the moment. Why? Because it's a gradual progression of brush strokes. Very repetitive. And the more you do it, the more, you just drag up that paint. So you're creating the height. There. I'm quite happy with that. I want to see a little bit of that sand coming through. So what I've done is I did raise the seagrasses on the top of the dunes and dragged up some of the paint and whatever paint I've got on my brush very, very gently. So I just sort of drag that up very gently just to get that effect that the seagrasses have got a little bit more height and that I'm closer to them. Just bring in a little bit more of that bluey turquoise colour of the cerulean blue mixed with the ultramarine. Just going to finish off here. And again, keep going clockwise if all the grasses are being blown to the right. So, so it's just very gentle approach, very light, don't be heavy-handed at all. There. It's just giving that feeling that they're blowing in the sea breeze. God, I wish I was there. Just scrape some of that. Scrape that bit there. I don't know what happened there. Right. And also the brush mustn't be too wet. That should be alright, it'll just sort of dry there. There. So, I think I'm happy with that. I want the light coming through the grasses this time a bit more. But you can do them denser and bring your piles of earthier shades, right up to the root if you wanted to. But they're not reeds, they're grasses, sea grasses, so it's nice to have that element of the light, the sandy colour coming through. I'll just bring that up a bit. I just want that suggested really, I don't want too many. Hi there, I've now completed my sky study, wet in wet, and then started creating a dragged effect. Because what happened was the sky study turned into, well, it's all in my head, Studland, down in Dorset. I just miss that area so much and I want to get down there. I haven't had a chance. So I'm thinking about it a lot in my subconscious. So I guess it's coming out. And I've been there so many times. I've been there as a child and then taken my children there and oh God, I just love it. So it's definitely come out. So the sky study was layers of light. So we had warm colours first. And you can see them coming through here. And then coming through the sand. So it's really important to capture that light. So the way of keeping that light and capturing the light is creating the shadow colours, so over those fire, warm, glowy colours, I created the earthy, purpley tones, as you remember. Then, I used a flat brush and skimmed the ultramarine and the cerulean over the top. And again, I just let it drift each time and just watch the movement and the patterns of those backwashes. And that is crucial to create something like this. It's all from my imagination. It's the most expressive way of painting. And then what happened was I started creating lines, contours, mounds. They weren't dead straight this time, they were curves, very voluptuous curves. And you can see quite a few of them. I've put a mount around this just to see how I feel about it. And I'm thinking, do I want to crop this? But do I need this light coming in? And how much light do I need to come in? You know, it's tempting to sort of crop it here and not have that bit on the end. I don't know, so I have to keep looking at that, and that's the hardest thing, being an artist, is analysing your work after you've done it. This was all experimentation, and then obviously the detail was using this brush for it's a calligraphy Chinese brush, for the seagrasses on the top, and then in amongst and down below, and dragging up those layers of colours. And I have one slit of light there which I didn't fill in, I just left it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed what I've created today in the Art Garden studio, and maybe you'll want to take up watercolour in this way. Bye for now.